Hey guys, so today I have swatches of the OPI Tokyo collection for spring 2019. The core 12 polishes I got from polishpick.com, were sent to me from polishpick.com, and then I also have the 3 Sally's Beauty Supply exclusives and the 3 Ulta exclusives to show you, so 18 polishes altogether. I will link polishpick.com down below and I'll get into the swatches. So the first polish is called How Does Your Zen Garden Grow, and this is a lighter kind of yellowy green. So this one is a little bit sheer on the first coat, not even just streaky, but like the polish itself is a bit sheer. It's not super unusual for a lighter color like this. There definitely are some significant streaks though. They look like they are starting to even out a little bit as it dries, but they're definitely still going to be there. The formula feels pretty good. It might be a little bit thin, but it's not terrible. So this one is still a bit streaky on that second coat. The first coat definitely dried more sheer than it was when it was first applied. The second coat doesn't look terrible, covers okay, but I am anticipating it being a little bit more sheer once it's dry. And I really like these kinds of shades, but I feel like I always stray away from them because the formulas are a little bit more finicky. So this one does cover completely in 3 coats. Looking at it in 2, no, never mind. I was going to say you might be able to get away with 2, but the more I look at that, yeah, I don't think so. It's hard to tell on camera, but it does look like that third coat builds that color up just enough that it starts to get a little bit brighter. So that is 3 coats of How Does Your Zen Garden Grow. The next polish is called Kanpai OPI, and according to the internet, that is cheers in Japanese. So this is, I believe, a lavender shade. Where like a periwinkle would lean a little bit more blue, I think this one leans a little bit more purple, so that's where I'm coming up with lavender. So this one is a bit sheer and a bit streaky on that first coat, but it is a little more opaque than I would expect it to be, again being a lighter color. I would expect it to be a little less, a little less creamy than this on the first coat. And good formula on this one. So this one, this is a pretty thick coat. Maybe I won't call this just yet. It looks like it's going to cover completely in 2 coats, but that was a pretty thick coat there on that nail. Yes, this looks like it is going to cover completely in 2 coats, which when there's 18 polishes, anything that only requires me editing 2 coats is a relief. I did say it covered pretty well on the first coat. I guess when I look at it, it's not a super light color. I just was expecting it to be more sheer, so pleasantly surprised here. I did my swatch pictures probably weeks ago now, so not exactly fresh in my mind, although I haven't done swatch pictures for the Sally's exclusives yet. I have to do those tonight. So that is 2 coats of Kanpai OPI. So the next polish is called Another Ramen-tic Evening, and there are 4 pink creams in this collection, and this is the lightest one. So this one is a little bit streaky on that first coat, but again covers pretty well for being a lighter shade. Even though I did the swatch picture for this like way longer ago than I did the rest of the collection because I put this under some of those Essie chunky glitters for Valentine's Day. But I do feel like I remember needing 3 coats for this. We'll see what happens today. Good formula on this one as well. So this one is looking pretty okay on the second coat. I'm going to look at it closely. I might even let it dry all the way because it definitely dried. The first coat definitely dried a bit more sheer than it applied. And I think the second coat is right on the edge of needing a 3rd for me. And if it dries more sheer, it's definitely going to need 3. It also seems to dry just a little bit dull. I actually don't think I'm going to add a 3rd coat to that. I really thought I was going to, but I don't think I need it. So that is 2 coats of Another Ramen-tic Evening. The next polish is called Rice Rice Baby, and here it is next to Ramen-tic Evening, so you can see the difference. I feel like Rice Rice Baby has it's obviously a little bit darker, but it has a little bit of a dustier quality to it as well. So this one looks like it's going to cover really well also. A little bit streaky. I'm sure it will be a little bit more streaky once it dries, but so far so good. Pretty opaque. And good formula on this one as well, really good formula. So this one does cover completely on 2 coats. It was pretty nicely opaque, not enough polish there. It was pretty nicely opaque on that first coat, still not enough polish. Didn't go far enough down in the bottle. Oh my gosh. Okay, it was pretty nicely opaque on that first coat, and the second coat filled in any of those little streaks that I had. I also feel like this does dry a little bit darker than it applies. So that is 2 coats of Rice Rice Baby. The next polish is called Arigato from Tokyo, and this is, again, moving into a little bit darker of pinks. Here it is next to Rice Rice Baby, so you can see the difference there. So this one covers really well on that first coat, but I did have a lot of polish there. I had way more polish on my brush than I wanted. Still looks pretty good though. The formula on this one I feel like is just a little bit difficult to control for me. It might just be a little bit thinner than the last few. It covers really well though, which is not usually something you see with something that feels hard to control. Usually they end up leaving a little bit sheer. It's not bad at all. It's certainly manageable. It just kind of feels like it wants to go places that I don't want it. So this one does cover completely in 2 coats. It was really close in one, honestly. It just had a few streaks, but I do feel like this second coat does make the color look a bit better as well. And it does dry a little bit dull, but you should be wearing top coat anyway. So that is 2 coats of Arigato from Tokyo. I turned my brightness down a bit for the next polish. This is a very, very bright, almost neon-y, like coral orange cream. And these are some of the most difficult colors to capture accurately, I find, for me on camera. So everything's going to be a little bit darker for this one, just so we can try to get the color right. Because I find it's much easier to fix it on the computer if it started out too dark than if it started out too bright. So this one is a little bit streaky on the first coat. Hopefully you can see that, but it's actually a lot more opaque than I would have thought for being like a brighter neon shade. So this one does cover completely on 2 coats. It also seems to dry, it's hard to tell on camera, but it does seem to dry much darker, like much darker than it applies when it's wet. A little less fluorescent once it's dry. I also might have been premature on the 2 coats thing. I am seeing a few streaks on my middle finger that seem a little bit too dark. So I'm going to let this dry all the way before I call it completely. Actually, this dried pretty well. I have one spot on my ring finger that it looks like a little bit of a darker streak, but I think there's also a ridge there, which is making it look worse than it is. Either way, I think this is fine on 2 coats. So that is 2 coats of Tempura-ture Rising. The next polish is called All Your Dreams in Vending Machines, and this is a shimmery pink. So this one is a little sheer on that first coat. The shimmer stands out really nicely, and it almost has, I don't know, it almost looks like a little, almost has like a little blue flash to it, I guess. This polish does want to move around on my nail a little bit. It's a tiny bit thin, so I'm trying to do thinner coats just so that it doesn't run around anywhere. But even wet, I don't see many brush strokes through that shimmer coats. So this one does look pretty good on 2 coats. I'm going to look a little bit closer and see if there's any nail line. So my nails are pretty short right now, but I do still have a little bit of nail line showing. I'm going to do a 3rd coat and see if that goes away. And this one also does dry a little bit dull. So this one does cover that nail line on that 3rd coat, mostly. If I look really close, I can still see it. It's not a huge issue for me right now because my nails are so short. But if you have longer nails where you have a lot more nail line to stand out, or very white nail line, you are still going to be able to see it after 3 coats with this one. So that is 3 coats of All Your Dreams in Vending Machines. The next polish is called Hurry-juku, Get This Color, and this is a darker pink. This is the darkest of the pink creams. Here it is next to Arigato from Tokyo, which is the 2nd darkest of the pink creams. And this one is probably a little bit lighter than it should be based on the color in the bottle on that 1st coat. It doesn't seem streaky at all though. I can see a very faint nail line if I look closely, but keep in mind that I have very short nails right now, so there's not a lot of nail line to see. And really good formula on this one. So this one does cover completely in 2 coats. It was really close to covering in 1. Obviously the color deepens a bit here once I add the 2nd coat, but the 1st coat was pretty even and pretty opaque on its own. I wouldn't call it a 1-coater. We're not really fixing anything with the 2nd coat other than the color. So that is 2 coats of Hurry-juku, Get This Color. The next polish is called Samurai Breaks a Nail, and this is a very grapey purple. It has a blue shimmer and then these little tiny flashes of like a pink fleck in there as well. So this one is very sheer and jellyish on that 1st coat. I can pick up a little bit of that shimmer and even a little bit of those pink flecks even with as sheer as it is on that 1st coat. And pretty good formula on this one as well. It doesn't feel very thin or runny at all. So this one is starting to build up a bit on that second coat, but it is still going to need a third. The second coat does help that blue shimmer stand out quite a bit more and deepen the color. It probably makes the pink flecks stand out more too, but I noticed the blue shimmer more than anything. Now that the color is built up enough, I can see a few brush strokes through that blue shimmer, but they're very minor, so I'm assuming those will go away as it dries. So this one does build up pretty nicely on that third coat. I can't make out any clear nail line on my nails, but like I've said for the last couple of polishes, my nails are really short right now, so I wouldn't necessarily rule nail line out for anyone that has longer nails than mine. This third coat also really ramps up the purple color, and those brush strokes did smooth out as the polish dried. So that is 3 coats of Samurai Breaks a Nail. The next polish is called I'm On A Sushi Roll, and this is a kind of green-leaning teal shade. This one is pretty decently opaque on that first coat. It is still a little bit streaky, but those are leveling themselves out pretty nicely. And good formula on this one as well. So this one does cover completely in 2 coats, and it does seem to dry just a little bit darker than it applies, and it also dries dull. So that is 2 coats of I'm On A Sushi Roll. The next polish is called Suzi-san Climbs Fuji-san, and this is a blue-leaning teal. And the only reason I described these two as green-leaning and blue-leaning is because they are way too close to be in the same collection. This bothers me a little bit, just because I know I'm going to have to be staring at my phone, at my pictures, trying to figure out which one it is so I don't post the wrong one with the wrong name, and they're way too close to be in the same collection. So this one is very nicely opaque on that first coat. Not even that streaky, just a little bit sheer. Speaking of not being able to tell polishes apart in my swatch pictures, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but do you guys remember the Color Club collection? It was the latest Halo Hues collection, but they were all pretty similar. They were all like silver with a different colored shimmer. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago now. To this day, I still don't know if I posted the right swatches with the names, because I could not tell them apart in the pictures. But anyway, formula on this one is really good. So this one does cover completely in 2 coats. I don't by any means think this is a dupe for the last one, because there is a very definite blue lean here and a green lean in the other one. They're not identical. I just think they're a little too close. But if I had to choose, I prefer this one over the last one. I like the blue lean over the green. This polish, now that I'm on to the second coat, it's not too thick. It doesn't feel too thick when I apply it, and it does level out. I just feel like it doesn't level out very easily. Where I think once this has been used a couple of times, you might have some issues getting this to level. So that is 2 coats of Suzi-san Climbs Fuji-san. So the next polish and the last of the core collection before I make some lunch, fold some laundry, and move on to the exclusives is called Chopstix And Stones. And this is a very deep, shimmery blue. So this one is in a jelly base, so it is a little bit sheer, but the jelly base is very, very dark, so it's not painfully sheer. The shimmer stands out really nicely, and instead of being like a pearl-like or metallic shimmer where you have to worry about brush strokes through it, this almost looks like a really, really fine glitter, but it doesn't feel like a glitter. It dries perfectly smooth. And good formula on this one as well. So this one does cover completely on 2 coats. It deepens the color quite a bit, and that does help that blue shimmer stand out. This does dry a little bit dull, so you will want top coat. And like I said before, none of that is glittery at all, so you're not going to have to scrub it off of your nail. So that is 2 coats of Chopstix And Stones. So the first 3 polishes here are the Ulta exclusives. This first one is called Just Karate Kidding You. And this is a brighter pink in a jelly-ish base. It has a slight milkiness to it, but it is still pretty sheer. And it has these little silver and almost pearly looking flecks in it. So this one is very sheer on the first coat. I can see just a very little bit of that base color. Mostly I'm seeing just those flakes. There is a slight pink tint to it, but not much. Good formula on this one. These flakes are nice and flat and light, so they're not going to behave like a glitter. So this one does start to build up a little bit on that second coat, but there is still a pretty significant amount of nail line showing. The pink base is building up really nicely though. And as you can see, this one does dry fully matte. So this one, again, this continued to build up on the third coat. This is not one that I was able to get completely opaque. Again, I know I've said this a million times, it's not a huge deal right now because my nails are pretty short. But if you have longer nails, whiter nail line, then you're definitely going to have some pretty visible nail line with this one after 3 coats. So that is 3 coats of Just Karate Kidding You. The next polish from the 3 OPI exclusives is called Left My Yens in Ginza, and this is a really sparkly gold metallic. It's not a super yellow gold. I would say it's like somewhere in between a yellow and a very pale gold. So this one is also very sheer on the first coat. It's kind of a bummer to me that they saved all of these unique finishes for the exclusives. It's also kind of a bummer to me that I feel like every time OPI does a collection that has Ulta and Sally's Beauty Supply exclusives, the quality on the exclusives is just not quite there. Like these ones are all, well, I shouldn't say they're all really sheer because I have not actually swatched the Sally's Beauty Supply ones, but I'm looking at the bottle and I'm assuming they're going to be as sheer. So frosty bases, really sheer formulas. They're not all like that, but I do feel like the majority of the exclusive polishes tend to have a little bit lower quality than the core shades. I'm ranting here, but I think it's lame that they saved all of the special finishes for the exclusives, and I think it's lame that they all seem to be of lower quality. Anyway, this is going to need a few coats. So this one does start to build up a bit on that second coat, but it is still a bit sparse between those particles, those shimmery particles. And this is not textured at all like a glitter. This is going to dry smooth and it should be fairly easy to remove. You might have some of those little shimmers stuck to the skin, but you shouldn't have to scrub it off of the nail. So this one does build up decently on 3 coats, but there is still completely, totally visible nail line here. Again, my nails are short, so it's not going to look super obvious, but if your nails are longer, then this might be better suited as a topper if you're not into the really obvious nail line. So that is 3 coats of Left My Yens in Ginza. The last polish from the Ulta exclusives is called Are You Happy to See Me? LOL, and the answer is no, because it's a glitter in a frosty base. I hate this. I hate this so much. And what bothers me about this, I'm really ranty today. What bothers me about this is these are some really cool looking glitters. They have these little indents in them, so they're very multi-dimensional looking, and it just seems like a waste to put them in a frosty base because this never looks good and no one ever likes it, and I don't know why they keep doing it. I shouldn't say no one likes it because it's a big world with a lot of people, and I'm sure somebody likes this. I'm sure there are a couple of people that like this. I'm just not one of them. So you get a decent amount of glitter out here. You do have some brush strokes through that very sheer pink shimmery base. It looks pretty, I mean, I don't like this, but it looks pretty terrible on the first coat because you don't have a lot of that glitter. But that will build up a bit better after a couple of coats. Formula is pretty good on this. This glitter is chunkier, so it is going to stick to the nail and you're going to have to scrub to remove it. So this one is still a bit sheer on that second coat, but you do start to get a lot more of that glitter out. One of the reasons that I don't care for these kind of polishes, and I've only ever seen OPI do them, is just because when you have the brush strokes in the frost and it goes over the glitter, and like the glitter on the first coat just looks like a lump under the frosty base when you put the second coat on, and it just never quite looks right to me. These are going to, I mentioned that they're going to be difficult to remove, but they are also going to dry textured, so you will want top coat. I still have some pretty significant nail lines, so I'm going to come back and do a third. So on 3 coats, I'll assess here in a second if I have any nail line left. You can see that the glitter from the first and second coats is starting to just look like lumps under the base because it covers them up completely. And these are kind of like weird glitters anyway, so I feel like they're a little bit more chunky. They stick up from the nail a little bit more than just a regular glitter this size would. I can't really see any nail line here in 3 coats. There might be a little bit, but not much. And you do get some pretty, I would say moderate brush strokes here when it's wet, but those do chill out a bit as it dries. So that is 3 coats of Are You Happy to See Me? LOL. So starting in with the Sally's Beauty Supply exclusives, these are the 3 polishes I have not done swatch pictures for yet. I'll be doing those after this. This color is the Last Polish's Fugly Sister. This is called This Shade is Blossom. This has the same really interesting, almost dented glitters, but these ones are in silver, and this is in a really hideous, frosty, gold-ish base. Interesting fun fact about this one. I ordered this from the Sally's Beauty Supply website a couple of weeks ago, and I just checked again, and if you order this from the Sally's Beauty website, you will actually have a picture, you'll be shown a picture of this polish, which is an Ulta exclusive, and I'm not even sure how it ended up on the Sally's Beauty website, but if you order it, you will receive this polish. The name is right, but the picture shows the pink one, so just so you know. So this one, also a very sheer base. This seems to have a lot more glitter in it. I know on a couple of nails with the last shade I only got like 1 or 2 glitters on. This one I'm getting so much that I'm having to kind of try to spread them around a little bit so they don't lump together. Yeah, this is like way, way more packed with glitter than the last polish. Look at all that. Oh, good lord. I told you I haven't swatched this one yet, so I didn't know what I was getting myself into here. What the fuck? Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is get the base color kind of evenly distributed and then actually take some of that glitter off. Because I know after, oh goodness, after 3 coats, I'm trying not to swear. I'm going to have to cut so many curse words out of these swatches. If it's chopped up, that's why. But I'm getting like huge chunks of that glitter out, and I know that after a few coats, the first layer of glitter just looks really lumpy under the base, and with this much of it, this could be like an absolute disaster. Okay, so on the second coat here, still like a lot of glitter kind of lumping together. It's sticking to, like the new glitters are kind of getting stuck on where the old glitters were. I do still have a lot of nail line showing, so this is going to need a 3rd coat, which sounds like a freaking nightmare. I will say this is a little bit easier on the 2nd coat. I'm not really sure why. Maybe I just have a feel for it and I know what to expect with this amount of glitter. I'm moving things around if you see me like touching it a lot with the brush. I'm trying to move the glitters around a little bit so they're less like concentrated into one area. And then also trying to swipe anything really excessive right off of the nail and dump it back in the bottle. So I'm going to do a 3rd coat to try to cover up that nail line. But it's not something that I would really recommend because I think the 3rd coat is where the true horror of this polish is like really going to shine. So I'm going to try to cover the nail line here with a 3rd coat, but like I said before, I would definitely not recommend doing a 3rd coat for this one, even if you do have nail line showing, because I think it's just going to make it a lumpy mess. If I look very closely, I can still see a little bit of nail line, but of all the faults that this polish has, I wouldn't consider that one of them because there is so much going on that it is hard to pick out. And you will need like 10 coats of top coat for this because everything is stuck together and the lumps of glitter are getting pretty mountainous. So that is 3 coats of This Shade is Blossom. The next polish is called Robots Are Forever, and this is, it looks to me like the white version of just Karate Kidding You. It looks like it has the same kind of pearly, slightly silver flakes, but in a white, crelly-ish, slightly milky jelly base. So this one also has very little color to the base on the first coat, just like the pink version. You do get a good amount of those flakies out though. I'm assuming that this will be another still see the nail line at 3 coat polish, but good formula on this one. So this one actually doesn't look like it's building up too much on that 2nd coat, maybe a little bit. This also, like its pink counterpart in the Ulta exclusive trio, this one does dry fully matte, and those little flakes in there will not behave like a glitter, so they should not be difficult to remove. So this one is still pretty sheer on that 3rd coat. I can see my nail line pretty clearly, but it does cover evenly, which I think is the big deal if you're going to wear a polish that you know is going to be sheer. If you know you're not getting full coverage out of it, it needs to at least be even. And this does dry fully even. There's no streaks or anything like that. So you could get away with this if you don't mind the sheer look. So that is 3 coats of Robots Are Forever. The next polish is called Judo'nt Say, and this is a shimmery, not like, it doesn't have glitter in it, but it's more of a sparkly kind of sparse, not sparse, how do I say this? Sparkly, glittery looking shimmer in a very light pink color. In case you guys don't know this, can you see how the bubble in that bottle is like, you can see through it very easily versus, let's say, a cream polish like this held at the same angle. There's no like really obvious bubble. It doesn't completely open up to like clear the glass out. You know what I mean? Like you can see the glass through the glass perfectly. I really don't know how to describe this. That's a good indicator that the polish is going to be sheer without actually having to open it or swatch it if you're buying things in the store. How visible the mixing beads are if you like hold the bottle up. How much mixing bead you can see is another indicator of how sheer the polish will be. So this is very sheer, but it also is very sparkly. And a pretty good formula on this one as well. So this one doesn't look too different to me in 2 coats. The shimmer, I guess, is building up a little bit, but still pretty sheer. So this one on 3 coats, I feel like you get a little bit more shimmer, but it is still pretty sheer. Potentially the most sheer after 3 coats of all of them. I think this is another one that would probably be a better candidate for use as a topper. So that is 3 coats of Judo'nt Say. So I actually think the pink shades were more my favorite out of this collection. I really like Another Ramen-tic Evening. The pinks were the first ones that I swatched out of it, and they're still my favorite, just based on color solely because I just like light pinks. And then I also have to kind of complain about these because you had 18 polishes. Did you really need both of these? Not really. These are the kind of shades that I have to like really pay attention to my swatch pictures to make sure that I'm posting them with the right name. And if I can't tell my pictures apart from the same collection, and I have to be really careful that I don't post the wrong picture with the wrong name, then they're too close. So not thrilled about this. One of them would have been fine, but Another Ramen-tic Evening is my favorite. And also, while I'm talking about not being thrilled, what is this? Why are we doing this again? I thought we had moved past this. I thought we had moved on as a people, but here we are putting glitter in frosty bases again. I'm gonna stop complaining. So that is the OPI Spring 2019 Tokyo collection. Again, I will link Polish Pick down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you later. Bye.